Moonlovers. Welcome to another episode of All Things Moon with myself, Kelly Jones. And it's been a hell of a week. Apologies for my wearing my glasses today, if you're getting a bit of that ring light glare in my glasses, but I just cannot go without them today. Just too tired from it all. And if you remember back to last week's episode, where the oracle cards, not once but twice, insisted on us upping our self-care levels to extreme self-care. And astrologers everywhere have been talking about this month and next month for quite a long time. And here we are right in the thick of it now. And Deep, Dark and Intense is the title of this podcast this week. And some key words are release, move on, clearing out, and blur. Blur. So just previous to me recording this, this is the 26th of October, Saturday. On Tuesday, 22nd, the moon was square. As we know, square is a challenging aspect, or can be challenging depending on what's going on in your world. But the moon represents the collective mood of the people, if you like. So the moon was square the nodes of fate. So it was square to the nodes of fate. And it felt fateful on Tuesday. I had a lovely morning with my brother. I really needed I needed to speak to my dad, but I can't speak to my dad anymore. You know, it's 6 years now and I need to move on. But I got a memory on Facebook of my dad's grumpy face at my front door delivering and helping to move a new washing machine in here quite a few years ago. And I sent it to my brother and he said, well, you'll just have to have my grumpy face instead. So I had some nice brother time. But also on that day, so the moon was square the nodes of fate, which just sounds fateful. I don't even need to describe that to you or explain it, do I? And the sun was square to Pluto. Both of those things led to a traumatic, fateful event, which has led me to being, well, I could go one of two ways. I could go down the road of poor little me, poor victim, and not doing anything about it, or I could up my levels to extreme self-care. So that is what I had already been doing, and now it's gone up another level to like emergency level now. I'm surprised there's not sirens going off. In fact, there was just sirens going past my house. So there we go. So what happened on Tuesday? I'll just take it back a little bit. Ever since I was younger, I've always avoided going to the dentist because I can't open my mouth very wide. I've got one of these jaws that clonks, and a long time ago, my jaw got stuck open at the dentist and he had to sort of thwack it back in. So I just don't do dentists unless I really need to go for some reason. I just do self-care of the mouth. But ever since 2020, I developed this habit, like teeth grinding, but it's called tongue thrusting. And apologies for the sirens, but I actually live between the police headquarters and the police station here, and they're always doing their road traffic training up and down the road here, so we hear a lot of sirens. Apologies. But yes, back to my jaw. So since 2020, going right back to that time was, was deep, dark and intense, let's say. But it was also the time that those who wanted to speak their truth started to be censored, shut down, shunned, just like the witches in previous times. And I started this sort of habit, I believe, where I was wanting to say things but stopping myself. So the tongue would come forwards. So it was like this. I put my tongue against my teeth, but I can't say what I really want to say. So kind of get that idea in your mind. And so that physically transpired into or became TMJ, as it's known, where we get this clicking jaw. And I don't really get it very often, but it is in the past few years. I've noticed every now and again I'll get this clicking jaw. Recently, as things have intensified, particularly at my home here, my relationship has been strained somewhat, about the whole van needing a new engine and the boiler needing to be replaced and Mars being returned to the sign of Cancer. I have Mars in Cancer. So on the full moon in Aries, I had a literal Mars return, and I believe I've got another 2 to go up until April. So at least I know what to expect, and I can do the work and prepare myself. So when it returns again and again, I will be in a better state to be prepared for it. But even though I know this stuff, it has still come along to test and challenge me. And on Tuesday, after I saw my brother, I came home, I was sitting at this desk and I thought, oh, I've still got my shoes on. So I bent down to take my shoes off. And as I did that, my jaw locked. I heard it and I couldn't open my mouth. And it was truly, truly traumatizing. It was really scary. It gave me quite a panicky anxiety attack. And there was nobody here. I couldn't call anybody because my mouth was stuck shut. So what do you do in that situation? So you've got to use what you know. So I used all the tools that I have. So the first one to be just breathe. So I had actually been last Sunday, so a couple of days beforehand, I'd actually, as part of my self-care, upping the self-care, I went to a beautiful, really powerful breathwork and meditation class at Studio Libra, where I am now teaching yoga and Pilates. And I was treating myself to a session. I wasn't teaching it, I was actually taking part. And she did a calming breath in that class. So that calming breath was fresh in my mind. And even though I know calming breaths, because it was in my mind, I could just kind of hear her voice counting. So I literally did the very simple breathe in for 4 and breathe out for 8, breathing into my belly, being very Strala yoga. Don't panic. Even though every ounce of me wanted to panic, I knew it wouldn't help me at all. And I managed to very painfully unlock my jaw myself just by forcing it, which was extremely painful. And I had all kinds of weird sensations going on in my ears, pains in my head. And so I went and did a little bit of research on what can I do for TMJ. And then I remembered the modality of EFT, emotional freedom technique, which is the tapping technique, which I am trained in as a practitioner. And I found a couple of videos on YouTube because I found it helpful to do it with somebody rather than sitting on my own. And I did it with them, but I changed the words to suit me. And as I was doing it, everything started to calm right down, but also some epiphanies and some realizations came to mind about what was going on. So remember, we've had this very angry energy, and there's no real let up on that. We have got some nice aspects in the middle of all of this, but really, without sugarcoating it, this is that final stage before the birth happens. It's the labor pains before Pluto finally moves out of Capricorn into the sign of Aquarius. So coming up shortly, the day after the next new moon, we will have a Mars opposite Pluto, both at 29 degrees of the signs that they are in, that culmination crisis point. And oppositions are what they sound like, opposite thoughts, views, opinions. So this kind of angry, intense energy is still going to be abound. So the only thing that we can really do is control ourselves in the center of all of this. But this jaw getting locked was all to do with me not being able to express how I really feel for the fear of anger, my own anger and other people's anger. So that's been stuck inside me and literally feeling stuck. Mars is also currently residing in my 8th house, and the 8th house of debt, inheritance, death and rebirth, transformation. So this is, it's quite intense. And if anybody, I tell you these stories because if you go and look at your own birth chart, you can see where it's occurring for you. And I'll move on from that story a little bit, but bearing in mind that the sun was square to Pluto that day, Pluto is just leaving Capricorn, and Capricorn physically represents bones, bone structure. It's ruled by Saturn. Saturn can be restrictive. So I literally had the experience of my bones in my jaw being restricted. So there's kind of a little disc here that pops out like it can do in your neck. So what did I do to up my levels of self-care? So doing what I could do straight away. And then I phoned my chiropractor. I've been going to my chiropractor for over 20 years. He knows my body. I trust him. It turns out I haven't actually had an appointment since 2020. So I obviously have been keeping myself and my spine really well. But this was a completely different reason for going. I've never had this before, although he treats me for scoliosis and I have rotation in my pelvis and my shoulders, which is why Pilates is so amazing for me, and yoga. So I booked an appointment for 2 days later. That was the soonest I could get in to see him. And when I did see him on Thursday, he said that my neck was the stiffest he'd ever felt. It was absolutely locked up here. But luckily what I did is I took myself to a Vinyasa flow yoga class at lunchtime just before my appointment, so that I was loosened up, warmed up and ready to have an adjustment. And that certainly made a difference. And he actually was so proud of himself when he did the adjustment. He said, if he had been filming that to put it on YouTube to show what a great chiropractor he is. So, so I have had relief from that, but obviously I had some fear running of that happening again. But sometimes fear is good. It's how we use it. Remember, these things are they happening to us or for us? So I knew that I didn't want to start running on fear. But having that fear there, knowing that I needed to take care of this and keep my jaw relaxed and not have anything get out of hand or cause me to have that happen again. So it's made me acutely aware of when that is tensing up, what's causing that, and to take care of myself and actually say out loud, actually, I don't want to go there in this conversation. I don't want it to escalate because I need to take care of my jaw. So it's actually protecting me in some way. It's actually giving me a way of voicing it in a different way. So also, a friend of mine amazing friend of mine, she has survived Hodgkin's lymphoma. She had a stem cell transplant, and she is now qualified as a hypnotherapist, and that's all come out of her healing journey. And she's just qualified and she wants to practice to get her confidence up. So she offered me some free sessions. So yesterday I took myself for hypnotherapy. Now I tell you all of this because I need you to know that I walk my talk. Extreme self-care. Not just to say it and then not do it. I'm currently drinking rose, lavender and chamomile tea to help keep me nice and calm. So, and as you can see, I've got this beautiful candle here. It's actually supposed to be, it's called a new moon candle, but it smells like clean washing. It's so lovely. And it's got labradorite, lapis lazuli and obsidian crystals in it. So I treated myself to a new candle and some amazing bath salts. So, you know, self-care extremes. What else can I tell you? So, intense experiences may trigger deeply buried psychological issues involving fear of death, fear of losing control, fear of being abused or persecuted. These very deep rooted fears may be relative to past life or to recent brushes with the dark side of life. On that note, I am wearing my moonstone and moldavite earrings. You can see, in case you're wondering what crystals I have on me here. These moldavite earrings I bought in Australia in 2020, just before we had to come home because of the whole you know what happened in March 2020. So I do believe that these were timely. Moldavite comes from a meteorite which is over 27,000 years old and said to protect from dark energies. So I've been drawn to wearing these again at the moment. You know, some people akin them to kryptonite, and some people say that they've got bad omens, but you know, what you believe comes true, I think. I've also got here some raw emerald sitting over my heart chakra. So, self-love. But the reason I tell you this Sun, Pluto, these intense experiences that that can uncover and trigger deeply buried stuff that we may or may not know was there or thought we'd cleared, particularly this past life related stuff. So, and being persecuted. And if you think that this is all bringing up that and helping me to remember when I first started to do this and experience this feeling in my jaw, was when I knew that I couldn't express my truth without being or feeling persecuted, abused. And it also brought up this whole healing the witch wound as well. So as we've stepped into Scorpio season, and next Friday, 1st of November, we have a new moon in Scorpio. So new moons are a chance to go within. Scorpio is a chance to look at our shadows, to dig deep, to swim down to the bottom of the ocean. And we can do that safely if we up our levels of self-care. If we can use our breath effectively, then we can create safe spaces for ourselves. And if we cannot do that alone, then we can look for ways to find safe spaces together. So if you start coming along to my moon ceremonies, that is a safe space. It's not a therapy group, but it is a safe space for you to do your journaling. So we journal together and I give you some prompts. And if you do have any questions, or if you want to have a session to do your birth chart and everything afterwards on a one-to-one, because there's something deeper to talk about, then we can do that as well. And we can create that safe space, and I can hold that space, and we hold that space for each other. Another transit that's coming up before that new moon is Venus is going to be in a square to Saturn. Venus is the benefic, Saturn is the malefic. In this particular aspect to each other, even though, as we know, a square is a challenging aspect, Venus is in the superior position to Saturn in this particular occasion. So luckily, the benefic is in the superior position. So superior doesn't mean better than, and benefic and malefic doesn't necessarily mean, it's terrible and bad, or it's really good. It depends on how it's showing up. But I have got here that this transit can cause stress in your love life. And to maintain harmony in relationships during this time. So this is on Monday, the 28th, but we're going to start to experience this over Sunday evening into Monday and maybe into the next day. So what can we do? Probably best to spend some time alone if we know that the likelihood of that in your situation is high. So for me at the moment, that situation is quite high. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to sort of, pretend I've got a perfect life. And, everything goes in waves. And at the moment we're having, a deep dive. And so we're doing some things to keep ourselves happy, but out of each other's way. Because I have spoken out loud and said, during this time, it's likely to be volatile. It's not a good time to try and sort things out. So let's just do what we can do for ourselves right now until such a time that we can maybe come up with some solutions. So on Monday, I was actually going to be gardening for 8 hours with Tom, but as it turns out, that's been cancelled. So no gardening, phew, which means that we can, not have to get in each other's way. My astrology teacher from Nightlight Astrology, Adam Ellenbass, says as Venus is moving into the square with Saturn, which is happening over the weekend and into early Monday morning, Venus will be at the same degree as Saturn, which is the 12th degree. And he describes this as bitter-sweet moments, like that 98% dark chocolate, deep, dark, and intense. So you can see that this is truly the flavour that we are coming into this week. Venus was the ruler of the previous solar eclipse in Libra, which was to do with relationships. So it will be bringing with it, Venus will still be holding some of that vibration of that eclipse, of that Libra relationship energy. So, it doesn't necessarily mean bad. It might feel bad. It might feel dark and intense. At least we're prepared. At least we know that of the likelihood, and how we respond to it is down to us. That's the one thing that we do have control over. Stop, slow down, go for a walk outside in the beautiful autumn leaves. Go and look for the mushrooms that are abound everywhere in the woods and the gardens at the moment. Take some time to go and do that instead. Do something that's really good for your soul. what else can I tell you? And I will be sort of talking more in depth on all of these things at the moon ceremony, which I am holding on the 1st of November. So that's a 111, the first of the 11th, 111 energy. So hopefully that brings with it an angel protection feeling around it. So to know that it's an auspicious number, that new moon. New moons are a time for sitting down and looking at how we want to start again. What can we do new in a different way? And if you know which house area it's falling in for you, then we can have a look at that as well. So just going down here in my notes. So the new moons are introspective, a time to reflect and take a little look at our inner world rather than our outer world. As we do in Strala Yoga again and again, notice how you feel. Be with how you feel. Allow the storms to pass if it's not a good feeling. Don't numb it out. It will keep coming up. You know, the lessons that we don't learn return again and again. So use the deep and mysterious and sometimes secretive new moon in Scorpio to delve into your feelings as deep as possible. You're going to feel the desire for more meaningful exchange. And if you can't get it where you are, where can you get it? Where can you get that deep conversation that you are needing right now? If you can't get it at home or you can't get it at work, where can you find that? Or maybe it's not a conversation, but it's something that you can just listen to. You can stop, be quiet, and just listen to something deeper than normal, less shallow. Shallow relationships are probably not going to feel that satisfying during this time. The lower expression of the Scorpio energy, the shadow side, is the part of us that we do not want to be seen. We don't want to see it ourselves. That can't possibly be me that did that thought that said that. Jealousy, vengefulness, spitefulness. It's time for shadow work. We all have the ability to feel these things. And it's okay because we're all whole beings. Those of us who were born, so if you've got your birth chart and you can look at it, have a look at the fixed signs. Scorpio is fixed, Aquarius is fixed, Leo is fixed, and Taurus is fixed. Mind blank. Have a look at those and see what planets you've got in there near or on 20 degrees of that sign. So I know that I've got Saturn at 19 degrees of Taurus. So you're going to be more personally impacted by this new moon if you have got any planets or angles and aspects at 20 degrees of any of those fixed signs. So it will also bring the opportunity for more drastic and radical change, maybe even beginning an entirely new chapter of life, to the possibility of leaving an old identity completely behind and releasing attachment to something to make space for something new. So I know for me with this past stuff, the universe is shoving my face right in my past to see myself in all my different me's. I cannot tell you how many, I haven't got time to tell you how many different things have happened, but everything from my career to relationships to love affairs, even to having been on dating sites. It's all been come up to be seen recently in the past week or so, literally. With this Mars in Cancer, opposite Pluto in Capricorn on the 3rd, as I said, this is that culmination crisis end point. This opposition of Mars in Cancer and Pluto in Capricorn is not going to happen again in our lifetimes, because Pluto won't be in Capricorn again in our lifetimes. After the 19th of November, it is imminent that it is going into its birth into Aquarius. So this is that horrible stage where it's being forced, pushing, deep breathing, holding someone's hand, holding on. There are likely to be standoffs, ramped up, dirty fighting battles out in the world and possibly around yourself. So just prepare yourself, stay calm, don't panic. It doesn't mean it's likely to happen to you personally, but if you know your chart, you know yourself, I'm always giving you tips and advice of what to do. Extreme self-care. Either be on your own if that's best, or be in a space where you can be free to express yourself calmly and be supported. A journaling prompt that I'm going to leave you with today. Which parts of myself am I not proud of? And can I forgive myself for them and accept my wholeness, both my light and my shadow? We have massive opportunity for self-improvement here. There's a harmonious aspect coming up as well between Jupiter and Chiron. So a real good time for healing and optimism. Don't think doom and gloom. This is the start of a new era for us all. So I hope that you can join me at my new moon ceremony on Zoom on Friday the 1st. That's 8 till 9:30 UK time. You'll find the details to book onto that at kellyjones.me. That's KELLIE.me. The links will be in the show notes. If you're on YouTube, please press the like and subscribe button. And I look forward to speaking to you again next week. Take care. Extra extreme self-care.